Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
What we can do is plan smarter, act faster.
After Vancouver's deadly Lapu-Lapu Day festival attack, the city says clear safety guidelines are needed amid calls for more mental health support. Plus,
it was right where that middle telephone pole is, and it was right straight up.
A fast-moving wildfire shuts down one of BC's main highways as smoke blankets much of the province.
It's the tightness in the chest, it's just everything. It's scary.
And
the temporary foreign worker program is not working. It should be cancelled or significantly reformed.
BC's premier joins the federal opposition leader in calling for the end to the temporary foreign workers program. But some business leaders have worries.
By eliminating this program, it would have catastrophic effects.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. Officials have called it the darkest day in Vancouver history. Now, months after the deadly attack at the Lapu-Lapu Day festival that killed 11 people, the city has released its investigation into what went wrong that day. It says clear safety guidelines are needed. But as Michelle Gassoub reports, Vancouver's mayor says his government is also pleading for more mental health support.
The brutal reality is the world has changed.
A final report into a tragic attack at a Vancouver street festival now released. Officials say it's time for change.
No city can eliminate all risk, but what we can do is plan smarter, act faster, and build our public spaces with these learnings in mind.
Among the recommendations, creating permanent protective barriers in some public spaces and new guidelines for when to use temporary barriers like police cruisers to block access to outdoor events.
The driver is gone.
11 people were killed and dozens injured when an SUV rammed into pedestrians at the April Lapu-Lapu Day festival. Still, the report says organizers did nothing wrong.
In this particular incident, the intel was sound, the planning was sound.
Vancouver's mayor, speaking broadly about violent incidents, says mental illness is at the root of the problem.
If someone wants to do something, they're going to do it. And so I think the bigger question, or the better question, is what do we look at to see why people are doing this and how do we stop them? And so we are begging for action from the province.
30-year-old Kaiji Adam Lowe is facing 11 counts of second-degree murder. A judge now contemplating whether he's mentally fit to stand trial. Their decision due next week.
My knee is still fractured. My pelvis is still fractured. It's still.
Christiane Watkins was severely injured after DJing that night. She calls more safety protocols a Band-Aid.
What affected me, my family, and the many, many victims that are still suffering right now is this mental health issue. The lack of care for the specific type of help that this person needed.
Premier David Eby said Thursday the province is working to make sure a tragedy like this one doesn't happen again. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Vancouver.
Part of the busy Coquihalla Highway remains closed now because of an out-of-control wildfire near Merritt. It's grown dramatically since amid this week's hot, dry weather. As the CBC's Brady Strachan reports, it's one of numerous blazes causing concern in the southern interior.
A dramatic scene for drivers, intense fire, and a massive plume of smoke billowing up into the sky. Earlier this week, the Mine Creek wildfire along Highway 5, the Coquihalla, exploded in size and forced the closure of the highway.
It was right where that middle telephone pole is, and it was right straight up.
A striking image for people in Merritt, including Mayor Michael Getz.
It's scary when you see that. With that, that's the power that you see when you see a cloud like that. That's scary when you see that because you know what's going on.
On Thursday, smoke from this fire and others in the region filled the air in Merritt, an unwelcome reminder of several fire emergencies in the region over the past few years.
We shouldn't have to be going through this, too much smoke.
Charlie Major, who lives on the nearby Coldwater Reserve, is on evacuation alert.
And it's not just this fire, there's a few other ones, and then it's all the smoke.
Environment Canada has issued a special air quality statement for Merritt and a few dozen other communities in southern BC, warning people of the health implications of smoke. For Madison McCleary, who lives with asthma, it's an anxious time.
It's an anxiety. It's because a lot of my asthma flare-ups do happen in the summer, so it's anxiety, it's the tightness in the chest, it's just everything. It's scary.
Provincial officials say the Coquihalla Highway will remain closed until visibility improves and travel is safe. That means lengthy detours for people in Merritt to reach the Lower Mainland.
That's the worry for me, is the fact that it does affect economy, it does affect the ability for people to have peace of mind, and and these things can pop up so quickly, as you can see.
The province is warning of the possibility of more fires to come as lightning is forecast in the region during this late summer heat wave. Brady Strachan, CBC News, Merritt.
The BC Wildfire Service, meanwhile, says a drone hit an aircraft fighting a wildfire on Tuesday night. It says the drone was being flown illegally in restricted airspace near a blaze in the Caribou region. The crash involved a bird dog plane. It helps direct air operations, and it caused minor damage to one of its wings. No one was hurt, thankfully. The RCMP are now involved. Anyone who flies drones in restricted areas can face up to a year in jail and be fined upwards of $100,000. Wildfires are blanketing much of the province's smoke, as you can smell and see. Officials say it's coming from Hope, near Whistler, in the Caribou, and from Washington State. Chad Pawson has more.
The normally stellar view from Burnaby Mountain Conservation Area blocked by smoke. It hangs like a shroud over the region.
It's not that bad. It's not crazy bad, but it's still bad. So it's concerning.
We close the windows and we use air conditioning inside. We try to stay inside.
Is it bothering you, headache or anything?
No.
You feel good?
Just natural.
Conditions vary depending where you are. The Air Quality Health Index has improved in some places like Metro Vancouver, but is poor in places like Smithers in the province's northwest and Squamish and Whistler. These conditions are bad for your health and made worse by continued high summer heat.
We're not really seeing a lot of change. What we really need to get things clearing out is a change in our weather pattern, and we have a very non-changeable weather pattern.
So what is there to do about the smoke you are breathing? You can wear a mask, stay indoors, run air purifiers, or seek community spaces that have air conditioning. The big question, of course, is when will these smoky conditions disappear? It could be days, say officials.
So if we get a good onshore flow from the west, that could help clear things out. But we're not really expecting a widespread clearing of that smoke. We might see a little bit more of a clearing by Saturday, which could bring some fresher air. That is a little ways out, though, and with smoke forecasting, it can change very fast.
In the meantime, people here say they'll simply have to endure the smoke, get on with life as best as possible, and be thankful when the clear air returns. Chad Pawson, CBC News, Burnaby.
Our science and climate specialist, Darius Madavi, here with a first look at the weather. And good Lord, it's just not nice out there.
No, that's a great way to put it, Dan. It is not nice out there. Incredible amounts of smoke coming up from all these fires here in BC and down in Washington State, just being kicked up, haze spreading across many places. I will note we have air quality statements in place pretty much blanketing the entirety of BC, in addition to these excessive heat warnings that have shrunk, only a few places under them now, but those will likely remain in place for a few more days in those locations. But some improvement there. Really, the heat relief comes at the end of the weekend. But again, wildfire smoke is the big story. Things look better in Squamish and Vancouver than they were before, but places like Kamloops, Kelowna, looking even worse than earlier.
Okay, Darius, thanks very much.
Thank you.
The fight for higher wages for some of BC's public sector workers continues. As Jonna Bailon shows us, the BC GEU has expanded its picket lines to downtown Vancouver in what it calls an escalation in job action.
It's day 3 of the job action by the BC General Employees Union, who say they're escalating things today with no signs that BC's public service agency is willing to return to the bargaining table with a better offer. About 100 of the BC GEU's 34,000 members were on the picket lines in downtown Vancouver on Thursday.
That's on top of the 2,400 members also off the job who have been picketing in Surrey, Victoria, and Prince George since Tuesday. The union, which represents public sector workers in fields like healthcare, social services, education, and the courts, said it's fighting for higher wages that keep up with the rising cost of living. They would not specify which sectors are part of the job action so far or what their next steps are. For now, the BC government has said essential services like healthcare and wildfire fighting are not impacted.
They need to understand that their position is out of touch with not just our membership, but the people of this province. They need to understand that the fiscal crisis they're in is the result of poor decisions and global financial pressure, but is not going to be balanced on the backs of civil servants.
The collective agreement expired at the end of March this year. The union said it's asking for a 4% general wage increase for the first year and a 4.25% increase for the second year. They're also asking for a cost of living adjustment.
We're just not able to do that this time around. We're facing big fiscal headwinds, and we have to understand, as a province, which includes government workers, that we're going to have to work together and find a fair deal, be creative, but respect taxpayers as well.
The union has said that the NDP government has offered them less than half of what they're asking for. The BC government has not confirmed what they're offering. The union says they will continue to escalate job action until they get the government back to the bargaining table. Jonna Bailon, CBC News, Vancouver.
Both Surrey and Vancouver now have people campaigning to become the next mayors in next year's municipal elections. But why are campaigns getting longer? The CBC's Justin McElroy explains how, like a lot of things in politics, it comes down to money.
It's the 7 happiest words in the English language. British Columbia's municipal election season is here.
Is it too early to announce to run for mayor? The short answer is no.
That was Surrey Councillor Linda Annis announcing on Wednesday that she will challenge incumbent Mayor Brenda Locke in BC's second biggest city. But the fact she had to ask the question means she knows people might be thinking about it. The next election is still a long way to go, more than a year in fact. And yet, here we are, signs, supporters, and teleprompters already in place. And it's not just in Surrey. In Vancouver, Ken Sims' former chief of staff, Kareem Alam, has started a party to challenge him next October. Political reporters have noted others in Metro Vancouver appear to be planning their own mayoral runs in different cities. But why so early? UBC political scientist Stuart Press suggests a lack of strong political parties that can quickly build up a candidate and a greater interest in mayoral politics than in the past may be reasons. But a big reason, like so many things in politics, comes down to money.
The changes to fundraising rule gives an incentive for candidates to get going more quickly.
See, when the NDP took power in BC 8 years ago, they put in municipal finance laws that banned corporate and union donations and put a yearly cap on what individuals could donate. But what local politicians in turn have figured out is that if you start running the year before an election, you can essentially double up on your biggest donors, getting them not just for 1 year of donations, but 2.
You can't just wait to the summer before the election to have a number of large checks written for you. You've got to build a subscription of reliable donors, and you need to put in the work, put in the institutional capacity to maintain that and grow that out.
That's not to say municipal finance rules are bad, but it's an example of how these things can have unintended consequences, because it seems that in trying to get big money out of local politics, voters now get to hear from possible mayors wanting to be politicians for longer than ever. Justin McElroy, CBC News, Vancouver.
To federal politics now, Vancouver NDP MP Jenny Kwan plans to introduce a private member's bill which will close what she calls Canada's arms export loophole.
Canadian-made arms and components can be sent to the United States without a permit. No questions asked. Once there, they are folded into larger weapons systems and shipped off to conflict zones, including Israel.
Kwan says she will table her bill to close that loophole when Parliament resumes later this month. The man accused of killing BC serial murderer Robert Pickton plans to plead guilty to first-degree murder. Martin Charest made that announcement through his lawyer on Wednesday, appearing in a courthouse by video. In May last year, he allegedly attacked Pickton with a broken broomstick while they were both inmates at a maximum security prison in Quebec. Pickton died in a Quebec City hospital nearly 2 weeks after he was assaulted. With the summer days getting shorter and darker, North Shore Rescue has some advice on how to stay safe outdoors. That story when we return. As warm summer weather lingers across BC, search and rescue crews are warning outdoor enthusiasts to be ready for less daylight. As the CBC's Amelia John explains, the province's biggest volunteer rescue group says members were kept very busy over the long weekend.
Labor Day is often the last chance for outdoor enthusiasts to soak up the end of summer. North Shore Rescue responded to 3 calls each day of the long weekend, and while they weren't difficult operations, they did keep crews busy.
They were short, smaller ones where there were a couple injuries that we flew in and were able to get the person off quite easily, or lost or overcome by darkness.
North Shore Rescue has responded to about 50 rescues so far this summer and just over 100 for the year. A typical year sees anywhere from 120 to 150, but it's the shoulder months, spring and fall, that can be the most challenging.
People don't realize the sun is going down earlier and how dark it gets in the trees.
With the days getting shorter and temperatures dropping when the sun goes down, search crews say now is the time to plan ahead.
Surprisingly, often there's more hypothermic cases in the fall than there is in the middle of winter, because people are expecting to be cold in winter and they carry the extra gear with them, whereas in fall, in the shoulder seasons, people are still thinking it's warm.
According to BC Adventure Smart, the #1 reason for search and rescue calls in BC is injuries. But there are ways to prepare.
We really want everyone to practice the 3 T's: trip plan, train, take essentials, every single time, no matter if your adventure is big or small.
The BC Adventure Smart website lists 10 things to take outdoors, including flashlights and spare batteries, to make sure you're able to make it home safely. Amelia John, CBC News, Vancouver.
Premier David Eby made a rather surprising announcement earlier in the day, calling for the end of Canada's temporary foreign worker program. As Katie DeRosa reports, others, though, are hoping for exceptions for specific sectors.
The temporary foreign worker program is not working. It should be cancelled or significantly reformed.
It's a rare show of unity between BC's Premier and federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre.
Liberals have to answer. Why is it that they're shutting our own youth out of jobs?
The temporary foreign worker program allows Canadian employers to use foreign workers to fill temporary jobs when no Canadian workers can be found. Eby says the program is being exploited.
Here in Surrey, where I'm standing right now, serious concerns have been raised about fraud.
One Surrey immigration consultant raised concerns to CBC News about fraudsters selling forged labor market assessments. That's what employers need to hire temporary foreign workers, to prove they tried to find Canadians but couldn't. Eby accuses Ottawa of overseeing a flawed program.
We can't have an immigration system that fills up our homeless shelters and our food banks.
But many BC farms rely on seasonal workers from abroad. One Abbotsford farmer says both Eby and Poilievre have indicated they support some carve-outs for agriculture.
If there was just no foreign workers, an outright ban, it would be highly detrimental.
The Canadian Federation for Independent Business is slamming Eby's position.
Many small businesses, particularly in rural and remote areas, rely on this program to do work that other people simply don't want to do. So by eliminating this program, it would have catastrophic effects.
BC Conservative leader John Rustad says the solution is a Made in BC program, so that sectors that do need foreign workers, like farms and tourism, can still get them.
We need to take control of immigration, of our own immigration in BC, instead of having these decisions being made over 4,000 kilometers away.
Prime Minister Mark Carney says his government is reviewing the temporary foreign worker program and the immigration system as a whole. Katie DeRosa, CBC News, Victoria.
A look at the day that was in Kamloops, where that city has been bathed in smoke and haze. Air quality poor in the interior, but the smoke is bringing some good news. It's driven temperatures much, much lower. Darius has a look at your forecast. Province-wide, next.
This is Vancouver is a new CBC podcast where we explore the issues, the stories, and the people that make this place home. Listen to This is Vancouver wherever you get your podcasts.
A community in Manitoba is shaken and grieving tonight after police say a man went on a stabbing rampage, killing his younger sister and injuring several other people. Cameron McIntosh now with how everything unfolded.
A violent and fatal rampage ended here with a collision between that RCMP vehicle and that stolen SUV, south of Hollow Water First Nation, killing 26-year-old Tyrone Samard, who police say in the early morning stabbed at least 8 people at 2 different locations, including his 18-year-old sister.
We can confirm, sadly, that an 18-year-old female has died as a result of these injuries.
What's unclear is what motivated or provoked the attacks. Police say they're focusing on connections between Samard and each of the victims, who were all known to each other.
The challenge to these types of investigations is the people we need to talk to are undergoing treatment, and some severe treatment and care right now. So we are not going to barge in there and try to interview them right now.
6 of the 7 surviving victims were rushed by air and road to Winnipeg for treatment. Some with serious injuries, but all are expected to recover.
My dad had his own home. His door was kicking into. He was sleeping in his bed.
Including Christy Williams' father, stabbed in a lung.
The community is all shaken up from it. It's not something that happens in Hollow Water.
The brutality of it felt by everyone.
I asked the community to pray and support one another.
Our hearts are with you. Our hearts feel very heavy. And we will be there to support you.
RCMP say there's no continuing threat. Authorities blocked access to the community for most of the day as police investigated the scenes of the stabbings and the crash. The officer involved in that collision was also taken to hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries.
If the threat wouldn't have been stopped at that time, the RCMP would have had a very busy, challenging day.
Cameron McIntosh reporting. The second day of meetings with the Prime Minister and the rest of the cabinet took place amid growing concerns about the trade war and government spending. Ashley Burke has more on the gathering less than 2 weeks before Parliament resumes.
A sense of urgency from cabinet ministers on day 2 of talks.
People want us to be in action mode, and I think that there is urgency, and particularly when it comes to the economy.
Upheaval in Canada's economy, the result of Donald Trump's trade war.
Is there any sign from the Trump administration that they're open to easing up tariffs that are hitting some Canadian sectors hard?
Steel, aluminum, automobiles, softwood lumber. It's those sectoral tariffs where we are, in many cases, the most integrated of any trading partner with the United States, and they're causing enormous economic hardship to Canada.
Dominic LeBlanc says trade talks with the U.S. are now technical, focusing on reaching deals for different sectors.
A series of small deals that cumulatively would put us in a better position than right now.
As that work continues, the finance minister is working on reining in government spending.
Will there be tough choices to make? Definitely. Is the nation ready? I would say yes.
He's facing questions about potential cuts and layoffs after the Prime Minister said the budget would be about investment, but also austerity.
There'll be adjustment in different places, but at the same time, we're going to be empathic to make sure that we're always there for Canadians.
The Conservatives leader describing the government as way too big and bloated.
The government has become a big fat man. It's time to put that government on a diet.
The Prime Minister said during these 2 days of talks here, he was sitting down with ministers to find efficiencies. But the finance minister is being tight-lipped about the details. His budget is expected next month. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Toronto.
U.S. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was in the crosshairs at a Senate committee hearing with criticism revolving around the new COVID vaccination policy and just what Kennedy's position on it is. The CBC's Willie Lowry reports.
Robert Kennedy Jr.'s face-off with the Senate Finance Committee heated. Kennedy there to discuss President Trump's health agenda, but the question of vaccines was front and center. Kennedy, of course, has a long history of questioning vaccines and has overseen a dramatic overhaul of the CDC. Now, that's the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Just days ago, he fired the Trump-appointed head of the organization. In June, he fired members of a vaccine advisory panel, raising concern among Democrats and even some Republicans of who he will replace them with.
We are the sickest country in the world. That's why we have to fire people at CDC. They did not do their job.
Now, that's not how many of the Democratic senators at the hearing viewed things. In fact, there were multiple calls for Kennedy to resign.
You promised that you would not take away vaccines from anyone who wanted them. You just changed the classification of the COVID vaccine.
I'm not taking them away from people, Senator.
It takes it away if you can't get it from your pharmacist.
Well, most Americans are going to be able to get it from their pharmacy for free. Most Americans will be able to get it from their pharmacy for free.
The question is, everyone who wants it, that was your promise.
No, I didn't. I never promised that I was going to recommend products with which there is no indication.
Clearly a spirited debate. It's important to note here, though, that while it was primarily Democrats raising the alarm, a few Republican senators also expressed concern. At the heart of all of this is vaccines and just how accessible they'll be under President Trump. Kennedy, whose department no longer recommends the COVID shot, insisted that it would still be available. Now, while the bulk of questions focused on vaccines, there was also some interesting exchanges around the pandemic.
Do you accept the fact that 1 million Americans died from COVID?
I don't know how many died.
You're the Secretary of Health and Human Services. You don't have any idea how many Americans died from COVID?
Lawmakers repeatedly hammering Kennedy over his short tenure as head of Health and Human Services and his future in the role. Willie Lowry, CBC News, Washington.
Add another threat for Canada that scientists are blaming on climate change. It's a virus relatively new to human populations here. While it remains rare, that may change. The CBC's Jennifer Yoon has that story.
A rare but potentially deadly virus spread by a mosquito bite. There's a new case of Eastern equine encephalitis virus in Hamilton, Ontario.
While this is normally identified in horses in rural areas, there is the possibility for spread to humans.
The virus killed one person in Ottawa last year. Infections are becoming more frequent, with a handful of cases in recent years, according to experts. Symptoms can include fever, headache, and seizures. Once the virus reaches the brain, it kills about 1 in 3 people infected. There's no cure or vaccine available for humans.
EEE is one of the deadliest mosquito-borne brain infections in the United States.
On average, it's reported to infect about 11 Americans each year. Now experts fear the disease is settling north of the border.
This infection is still, for the moment, rare. But for all we know, this single case in Hamilton may be the canary in the coal mine.
I had never wanted to see EEE, in humans, and here we have it.
Climate change is to blame, say experts, with mosquito populations moving with a warming climate.
We are getting so many range expansions of mosquitoes that we're just trying to play catch up all the time.
Scientists are urging vigilance.
We can't just say, oh, there's only one case, we've dodged the bullet, we're going to go into winter, we don't have to worry about it again. Because mosquitoes and viruses and germs, they're very resilient.
And there are ways to protect yourself.
To wear long, light-colored pants and sleeves, wear deep-containing bug sprays, to manage any standing pools of water that they might have on their property.
At least for this season, until the weather gets colder and the mosquitoes die off. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
In Portugal's capital, the transit authority has shut down all streetcars to carry out immediate inspections. At least 15 people were killed in Wednesday's funicular crash, and 18 more were hurt, including a Canadian. The CBC's Alison Roberts reports from Lisbon.
Portugal's Prime Minister calls the crash one of the greatest tragedies in the nation's recent history. Luís Montenegro is promising swift answers from police and forensic experts amid pressure to determine the causes of the disaster that killed and injured many foreign nationals as well as Portuguese. Police now say that with a high degree of probability, 2 Canadian nationals were among those who lost their lives. Global Affairs Canada says it is aware of 2 missing Canadians in Lisbon, but did not provide further details, citing privacy. The mayor of Lisbon says he has asked the municipal company that runs the funicular to commission an external investigation into the accident, as well as its own. Probes by prosecutors and the Transport Safety Authority are underway. But local media are focusing on reports that the cable that linked the 2 carriages may have detached and backup brakes failed. The Elevador da Gloria, as the 140-year-old funicular is known, was a major attraction, often packed with foreign tourists. Alison Roberts for CBC News, Lisbon.
Meanwhile, rescue efforts continue in Afghanistan following Sunday's deadly earthquake. Many homes and buildings have been leveled, leaving people trapped under rubble. More than 2,200 people are dead, says the Taliban-controlled government. For more, let's bring in Abdul Fattah Samim, a former journalist and diplomat. He was born in Afghanistan and now calls the Lower Mainland home. Abdul, as we mentioned, these rescue efforts continue. What has been going through your mind and your heart as you see and hear what's happened there?
Thank you very much for receiving me for this interview. When I heard the news, it was really a very sad news for me, and it was heartbroken because we were witnessing and watching that many of our fellow countrymen, they were struggled to survive. They were under the walls, under the roofs, under the stones, and they lost their life, their family members, their belonging. And this was very shocking news for not only for me, for all the Afghans in diaspora.
Now, this disaster has been particularly hard on the province there in Kunar. For those who don't know, how difficult is it to get help to that region?
Kunar province is located in the eastern Afghanistan border to Pakistan. It is a mountainous area, and it made hard to deliver services to the people who are in need. So this was a big issue for the service provider.
And what are you hearing from any friends or family who are still in Afghanistan and how they're coping with all of this?
We are hearing that many people, they lost their lives, their belonging, and they are still living under no roof. They don't have their homes. And the people, they are suffering a lot. Because of the food shortage, from medication, hospital, thousands of people, several thousand people injured, and there is no place in the hospitals. Government officials, they are transporting people to Kabul, Jalalabad, in the neighboring provinces, but still the shortage of food, the shortage of medication, the shortage of medical supplies, these are all the issues that people are worrying about.
We appreciate your time. What is the best way for people, perhaps here in Canada and BC, for them to support the Afghan people there?
From the time we heard about this shocking news, people in Vancouver, Afghans, they launched fundraising. We have several organizations, but Afghan National Cultural Organization has launched a fundraising, and it will be continuing for 1 week to collect money from our friends, our neighbors, Afghan and non-Afghans, businessmen, and to provide this fund to the people who are suffering and the people who are in need in Afghanistan.
Abdul Fattah Samim, we appreciate your time. All the best to you.
Thank you so much.
Coming up, days of torrential rain and rising river levels have flooded India's capital city, forcing hundreds of people from their homes. That story coming up. A vicious monsoon season in Asia continues with more heavy rain. There is flooding in India's capital, and officials there describe the situation as severe. Ishan Gurd reports from New Delhi.
It's been a tough few days for the residents in this neighborhood in New Delhi. The rising level of the Yamuna River behind me, which is the lifeblood for the city's more than 30 million people, is now threatening lives. The floodwaters, as you can see, entering people's homes, submerging some parts and forcing hundreds of people in low-lying areas to be displaced. Residents say the impact of the heavy rain is made worse by the city's old infrastructure and what they say are problems with construction and environmental policies. It includes increased surface runoff due to rapid development, poor river water management between provinces, and gradual loss of floodplains throughout the city. And this year, the rainfall hitting much of South Asia is higher than average. Across the border in Pakistan, death toll has now crossed the 850 mark, marking one of the worst natural disasters in the country's recent history. Both countries are predicted to receive even more rainfall in the coming days. Environmental experts say that as the world's ocean temperatures are rising, so is the intensity of rainfall, plus the unpredictability of when rains will fall and for how long. A recent World Bank report estimates that low and middle income countries will need more than $800 billion of investments to make their cities resilient to climate change. Steps are being taken here in India to transition to green energy and build more climate-friendly cities. But while the fruits of this labor might be realized in the future, for the city's residents, the pain of climate change is here and now. Ishan Garg for CBC News, New Delhi.
Our science and climate specialist Darius Madavi here with the BC-wide weather forecast. A very different situation from what's happening in India, and we're back into the pall of smoke here.
That is right, Dan. This is some video that one of our colleagues took on the ferry leaving from Horseshoe Bay. Just everything shrouded in smoke. We have some more videos here as well. This one from our colleague Jay Bertinoli, and he took this on the flight from Vancouver to Kelowna. Again, just a haze over everything. I think we have another video here from him as well. I mean, in this one, it looks a little bit pretty, but for the most part, the smoke is far from it. We've had just the entirety of southern BC, almost, with the exception of parts of Vancouver Island on the other side of the mountains, lucky them, just covered in smoke. And that isn't going to change anytime soon. Here's an image from satellite. You can see, again, some of those fires from this north and central coast is putting up a ton of smoke that is then traveling across the country. Here is another image of that, this one actually moving. So here's Vancouver Island, here's BC. You can see some of that smoke traveling down the coast, more smoke coming up from Washington State up here. Vancouver really getting it from all sides, down from a fire just west of Whistler, as well as up from Washington State through those valleys and just traveling right into the Fraser Valley and then to Vancouver. And expect more of that tomorrow. Now, part of the reason for this is that we've had such high temperatures that we've seen not just the potential for new fire starts, but more active existing fires. A 119-year-old record was broken yesterday. So this record, the hottest Canada has ever been in September, set in 1906, 40.0 degrees Celsius in Morden, Manitoba. Then in 1940, the town of Saskatchewan tied that record. Then just 2 days ago, Lytton, BC became the third town to tie this record, 40.0 degrees Celsius, and it held it for 1 day. And the next day, Ashcroft, BC, just yesterday, 40.8 degrees Celsius. Breaking a 119-year-old record by almost a full degree Celsius is very unusual, to say the least. We've seen a lot of extreme heat driving that smoke. Is it going to last? We've got a few more days of it. Here's the highs that we saw yesterday. Again, you can see many of them up in those mid to high 30s. If we zoom in here, these are all places that broke either daily or monthly temperature records. And I want to highlight, look at this, Kamloops yesterday, 36.9 degrees. If we look today, 23.2. What's the difference? The smoke traveling up from Washington State. Take a look at this. This is some video from Kamloops today, from a webcam, just covering everything. That smoke is so dense, it's blocking out the sunlight and preventing Kamloops from getting up to the mid-30s, which is what it was forecasted to be at today and what it would have seen without that smoke. So again, that heat, is it going to last? Yes, we've got a few more days of it in the southern interior, but then temperatures will finally start to come down as we get into the end of the weekend and the beginning of next week. And we might actually have some precipitation on the way. Dan, a bit of rain that may be heading up to us from a low that's going to be crossing Washington State. But in the meantime, the fire danger remains high. We've got a lot more smoke on the way in the next couple of days. Again, blanketing that smoke and haze, blanketing almost the entirety of BC. Expect more smoke and haze. That's really the weather conditions everywhere tomorrow, Dan. Really bad air quality down to the surface, almost no matter where you are in BC. And here's our 5-day forecast. Smoke, haze, and then maybe finally some showers.
And a good reminder to check in on people who may be more vulnerable to that smoke.
Definitely.
Darius, thanks very much.
Thank you.
A Goliath and pioneer in the world fashion industry, Giorgio Armani has died. He was 91. More on his legacy and work after this.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC inbox.
Join CBC's Dan Burritt on September 24th at Dakota's signature fundraising event, the Team Trivia Challenge, supporting Literacy Month in BC. Register your team at dakota.ca. And come watch some amazing soccer as Vancouver Rise takes the pitch this Saturday. Stop by the CBC tent and share your soccer stories for a chance to win some great prizes.
A global fashion giant is gone. Italian designer Giorgio Armani died earlier today.
CBC's Megan Williams reports.
He was known as Re Giorgio, King George. For Italians and fashion lovers, Armani was more than a designer. He was a symbol of cool, comfortable elegance, and also of discipline and success. Even in his 90s, he kept working. He was too frail to attend his last fashion show in June, but he oversaw it via FaceTime and apparently chastised workers for showing up late. When he died, he was planning on having another fashion show this September to celebrate his 50 years in fashion. That's how long he's been at it. It's no exaggeration to say that Armani has changed the way that people dress. He's dressed stars, yes, but he's also influenced ordinary people at a cost, of course. His soft, deconstructed suit replaced the stiff suit for men. And for women, he purposefully designed clothing so they could feel freer and less tethered to the ever-changing trends. 5 years before he died, he chastised other designers for violating women by forcing them into these ever-changing fashion trends.
I think a big thing they say that you can tell when a designer loves women, and Giorgio Armani definitely loved women. I think his shapes and his bags and his blazers, all those really iconic pieces that style so nicely, he was really good at dressing a woman's body.
Armani embodied not only elegance, but also hard work and beauty with a purpose. And with his death, Italy has lost not just a designer, but a cultural giant. Megan Williams, CBC News, Rome.
The Toronto Film Festival is back for its 50th edition. CBC's Ali Chiasson reports.
As ever with the Toronto International Film Festival, you can expect exciting, entertaining, and thought-provoking films from not just Hollywood's biggest and brightest, but Canada's and beyond.
This is a guy who, the minute you see his face, you're going to smile.
It opens with a big dose of Canadian comedy history with a documentary about comedy legend, the late John Candy. It's called I Like Me, and it's directed by Colin Hanks, produced by Ryan Reynolds, and John Candy's son, Chris, who calls it one last big, beautiful movie starring his dad, John Candy.
It very much feels like a swan song and a very beautiful goodbye to our dad. And this is, you know, the one last great John Candy film that he gets to star in, so we're really happy about that.
There are 291 films screening this year, so there's really something for everybody. You have movies that will see you rooting for a struggling prize fighter, played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in The Smashing Machine. You'll also find yourself rooting for a struggling out-of-work actor, played by Brendan Fraser in Rental Family. There's a lot of buzz around this film being his next The Whale, which was, of course, a TIFF movie a couple of years ago, and the one that landed him the Best Actor Academy Award. Speaking of Oscar buzz, there is a lot of it with the TIFF movies this year. Over the years, many films that won the People's Choice Awards at TIFF went on to be nominated or win the Oscars. Thinking about American Beauty, Slumdog Millionaire, 12 Years a Slave, up to King's Speech, and many more. It is still very audience-driven. We will again see droves of fans stargazing throughout the 11-day festival, even when the weather isn't as glamorous as you can see for day one. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
And breaking news before we go, because of the growth of the Mine Creek wildfire that's closed the Coquihalla Highway, the Fraser Valley Regional District has issued an evac order for 2 properties in the Coquihalla Lakes area. That includes the Coquihalla Lake Lodge and the Coquihalla Summit Snowmobile Club. If you're in that area, you have to leave immediately. Thank you for joining us. Your next local news is at 11 o'clock, right after the National.